I'm grateful to you for coming, but to be quite honest with you, fuck your feelings.
So I thought we would take a look at the hypocrisy of Owen Jones's new Facebook post regarding Tommy Robinson being arrested. He starts off by Stephen Yaxley Lennon, aka Tommy Robinson. Well, no shit, Sherlock, we all know that it's a fucking alter ego name sort of thing, bollocks, is not a martyr of free speech. Well, no, he hasn't died yet to become a martyr, but linked to Sargon's video about prison Muslim gangs that could hint towards how he could eventually become one. But on the subject of free speech, he's done a lot fucking more than you have. I don't remember you sticking up for Count Dankula when he was getting arrested and going through the courts. But on the other hand, you interviewed somebody that took the same stance as Tommy. Jonathan Pye, also known as Tom Walker. See, I can use alter ego names as well of people. You're not impressing anybody, you fuck knuckle. So let's have a look at what Jonathan Pye said about Tommy Robinson supporting free speech and why you have failed it.
The reason they don't want to stick their head above the parapet is because, you know, freedom of speech is like so unfashionable these days. What the fuck is going on when the likes of Tommy Robinson and Katie Hopkins hold the mantle of free speech? They don't own the principle. And just because some nasty people have supported this guy doesn't mean the principle is wrong. We need to reclaim that fucking fight, man. This matters. The law works in precedents. Once one person is convicted for telling a joke, that's it.
See, Jonathan Pye isn't a fan of Tommy Robinson, but he can at least agree when something is important to fight for. Freedom of speech is something that you need to fight for. Now let's have a look at you actually talking to Jonathan Pye.
Free speech, define it. What is free speech?
Well, the freedom to articulate your opinion. If that opinion offends, who gives a shit? I'm sorry. If you were a racist and you genuinely felt that your skin colour made you better than that guy over there with brown skin, you should have the right to articulate it, because then I can tell you where it's going wrong. You put it underground and it becomes dangerous.
I honestly don't think I could have put it better myself. But Owen is going to prove that he just doesn't understand what freedom of speech is.
So this is why I think there's often a misunderstanding about free speech. This is where we'll disagree, which is
absolutely. Yeah.
There are some people on the right who think that free speech means the right to say what you want without being challenged. If people regard something as racist, they have the right to call that out.
Absolutely, but as long as you concede that they do have the right to express it.
Dripping with autism.
The right don't mind being challenged for what they say. We get very annoyed when the left try to prosecute us and get the government involved and try to turn us into criminals for the things that we say. Also, how would you find out if somebody regarded something as racist if you didn't give them the freedom of speech to say something that you regard as racist? And now he is really going to prove that he just doesn't understand what freedom of speech is.
If somebody says, let's meet up in Soho tomorrow at 5 o'clock and kill as many gay people as we can, you would obviously support their arrest, surely?
I would, but, as long as...
We agree there are some limits on freedom of speech.
You've just given a perfect example of incitement to violence, not an example of freedom of speech that you disagree with. And now Jonathan Pye is about to give you an example of why context matters.
What about if that person was using irony, hyperbole to make a different point?
But no one calls for their arrest.
Well, someone was recently convicted in Scotland for teaching his dog to do that, to do a Nazi salute. The judge said context and intent weren't important. Just the idea that this potentially could cause offence.
I mean, again, it's just the left often will just call stuff out as racist and homophobic. And there are some who go, well, you're being too trigger-happy with that, you're being too...
I think so.
But that is still constantly construed as an attack on freedom of speech.
I do think it's a problem, you know.
In what way, then?
It's a problem because the left call out anything that they disagree with as hate speech.
If I was holding hands with another man walking down the street,
yeah,
and someone said, you fucking puss,
yeah,
is that free speech?
No, it's
But why not? Why isn't that free speech?
Here's the problem. If you say that that isn't free speech, then you say that people that say that should be locked up. But at the same time, it's their opinion and they should be allowed to voice it. So I actually think it is freedom of speech, even though it is offensive. Granted, it is offensive. I do think that people should be allowed to say it. Until they are inciting violence, they should be able to say whatever the fuck they want. Now, Count Dankula actually gave a great speech about why the left see freedom of speech as a right-wing issue. So I'm going to play a snippet of his speech from the A Day for Freedom event.
Because to these people, image matters more than principles. People seem to think that if someone wants to protect freedom of speech, it means that person is far right, or at the very least right wing. People have even branded this event as a far right event because of what they think of the speakers here. Well then, where are the left-wing free speech events? Where are the left-wing voices coming out in support of free speech? The reason these speakers are here today isn't because the right have claimed the principle of free speech, it's because the left have abandoned it. Freedom of speech is not a right-wing goal, and it's not a left-wing goal. It's a human goal. It is a human right that everyone deserves. It doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter where you are from. It is a right that we all must protect because it belongs to all of us. Free speech isn't owned by the right, it isn't owned by the left, it isn't owned by an organisation, and it certainly isn't owned by the fucking government. It's owned by us, the citizens of the United Kingdom.
So I think I've proven that Tommy has done a lot fucking more than Owen has for freedom of speech. He then goes on to call Tommy a convicted fraudster and former football hooligan, because, you know, the labels work so well. So I'm going to let Tommy prove that he's not a fraudster.
I'm charged. They didn't charge my wife. I'm charged. I'm charged with tax. I'm taken to court. Their whole case of why they've done this, they say I owe them £137,000 tax. That would mean me not paying tax on about 300 grand, wouldn't it? I did have a business that was turning over quite a bit of money at the top for those few years, yeah? It took 20 minutes in court for me to produce, for the evidence to be produced, I owed them not a single penny. Bearing in mind they've closed my businesses. They've destroyed my shop. They've destroyed everything we're doing. And then within 20 minutes, we got not guilty. After this, I'll explain the mortgage case. I then had a mortgage case where I was charged with mortgage fraud. Between me and my wife, we had 7 mortgages. What they did is when they had nothing against me, after 2 years of my investigation on me, they started targeting my family all around. Cousins, they've done the nans, they've done one of my family members for not paying tax in 2006 on things sold on eBay. Yeah? Everything and anything they could find. Yeah? My brother-in-law was charged. His case was that he got a mortgage, self-certification mortgage. Any of you bought properties, you'll know. Years ago, it was encouraged. You're encouraged to say you earned more, really, as long as you put a big enough deposit down. Now, my brother-in-law bought his first house. Bearing in mind, when we were arrested, this all happened 5 years before. The house was bought. It was sold 9 months later. The mortgage company were paid. No one lost a penny. Yeah? This was the mortgage fraud they arrested my brother-in-law on. But they tied me to it because I'd lent him a deposit at the start. Yeah? So this was the case. This was the case.
So that bit's done. Now let's get on to the football hooligan label. Let's see if that really sticks as well.
I've gone to football, and as I said, I'm not here to pull the wool over your eyes. I'm not here to lie to you. I haven't lived I've made mistakes in my life, yeah, as everyone does, and as a young man I did. I went to a football match where I was arrested on another charge. I was arrested outside a football stadium, and for nothing related to football. And I was that charge was subsequently dropped. When I answered bail for that charge, they said that I swore outside the football stadium. 2 police officers said I swore. Yeah, I thought, well, that's nothing. Yeah, I was taken to court. Then it became apparent why. I was convicted for swearing outside a football stadium. The headlines in the newspapers were I was convicted of a football hooligan riot. I was convicted apparently for calling them sheep shaggers. Yeah? Luton were playing Newport, England versus Wales. Yeah? It was a football match.
So, whatever you think of Tommy, you don't need to like him. But I think I've proven that them labels don't fucking stick on him. He then goes on to say that Tommy broke strict reporting rules which exist in court cases for a very good reason. If they are broken, that can lead to the collapse of the trials of those alleged to have committed serious crimes such as rape or murder, meaning alleged rapists would walk free. Now, unlike a lot of Tommy supporters, I actually do think that he was in the wrong. I don't agree with it. I think morally he is superior to Owen Jones by fucking miles. But it seems the law is not on his side. Now, it's interesting the tweet that Owen said the day that Tommy got arrested, that you start to think there isn't justice, and then Harvey Weinstein and Tommy Robinson are arrested on the same day. Now, it's interesting, it's really interesting that he brings up Harvey Weinstein and wanting the fairness of trials. He clearly is a hypocrite. He says that Harvey Weinstein should have been arrested straight away. And the reason that he gave for this is because there had been so many people come forward and that he was a potential danger to people. That I do agree with, but at the time, the trial hadn't happened and it hadn't gone through court. So advocating for that is wrong. You need to advocate for a fair trial, which is what you're telling Tommy to do. But if you said that that should have happened to Harvey Weinstein because he was a potential danger to people, then you also have to fucking say it for this Muslim grooming gang, because guess what? They are a potential danger to women and young children then, judging by the amount of people that have come forward claiming that they have been abused and raped by them. He then goes on to say, if you believe Tommy Robinson shouldn't be arrested, you are saying the law shouldn't apply to him because you agree with his obsessive anti-Muslim hatred. You also support breaking reporting rules which can collapse the trials of alleged criminals. 1. I have just said, I do think Tommy was in the wrong here. I don't think that these rules should be in place in the first place. I think they are a way of hiding what's going on so the public don't know what's actually happening. I think it wasn't put in to protect people. I think it was put in so that the British public don't realise how prominent the grooming gangs are. I think that's why it happened. When you say anti-Muslim, what you actually mean is anti-Islam. You know, that religion that wants to see you dead? But even when that religion is staring you straight in the face that it wants you dead, you will still defend it. You will never admit that Islam is against gays.
What I'm saying is, this has to be called out for what it is. It was an intentional attack on LGBT people. This person...
on the freedom of all people to try and enjoy themselves as Bataclan
No, I'm sorry, can we just explain? You don't understand this because you're not gay, okay? So just
Whether
listen.
I'm gay or not has no...
No, it does.
It has no reflection on the fact that this person killed...
You have ownership of horror of this crime.
Can I just say, I find this astounding.
I'm not Jewish and I'm not gay.
Excuse me.
I'm not French, but I'm still equally horrified.
Let's stick with what the papers are saying about it rather than what you're saying at the moment. But that's the headline. ISIL wages war on gays in West. Now, you share that view that basically this was deliberately targeted on one part of the community rather than the freedom to enjoy yourself no matter what your sexual orientation is.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the coverage in the newspapers.
Yeah, I'm trying
That's what we're here for.
I'm trying to understand the point you're making. This was a deliberate attack on LGBT people in an LGBT venue. It was a homophobic terrorist attack. Do you not understand that?
No,
it's not some abstract kind of, he just picked a random club out of nowhere. He picked a club because it was full of people he regarded as deviants.
Okay,
that's why he attacked the club.
Now, Owen complains that not enough gay people speak out about things like this. So I wonder how he treats other gays when they actually do want to speak out about it, but maybe they hold a bit of a different view to him. Maybe somebody like Douglas Murray. I wonder how Owen would treat Douglas Murray.
So anyway, the next day, I was asked to go on Channel 4 News from Soho in London to talk about the vigil that was going on there and to talk about Orlando and so on. Turned out that one of the other guests was Owen Jones. I said, it's fine, go ahead. And then I got a call saying, actually, sorry, we can't have you on because Owen Jones won't appear alongside you. And so I said, well, this is absolutely typical. That somebody, it's what I said earlier, it's only ever really about politics with these people. That's all they're after in this.
Yeah.
And if they can use sexuality, they will. But here is a person who on Sunday complained there weren't enough LGBT voices. I happen to be gay, and I was asked on the programme the next day, and he got me cancelled.
Yeah.
Because I'm the wrong type of gay.
Now, the last bit of his post, he says, I didn't see him trying to break reporting restrictions around the trial of a senior English Defence League member who groomed a 10-year-old girl. Did you? That's because his agenda is bigotry and hatred and nothing more. It's interesting that you're saying that there were reporting restrictions on that, but you're linking to a report, you fucking idiot. Fuck me. He's going after these cases because they have reporting restrictions on them. And that's because the government is trying to hide what is happening from the public. That's my opinion. Maybe they're not. Maybe they genuinely are protecting victims. But it seems slightly suspicious that all of these other incidents involving white men come out in the press. But when it is Muslim grooming gangs, it's kind of hidden from the mainstream press. That's an issue. Now, also, to say that 10-year-old girl being groomed by one man is the same as a grooming gang is ludicrous. It's amazing that the left still try to hide behind that the majority of paedophiles in this country are white. Yes, we know that. But now I'm going to let Majid Nawaz explain why the grooming gangs are a fucking issue.
Forgive the language, the French, but this is total BS, because he's confusing two types of sexual offences. And we as Quilliam looked into this, and I'm going to come to the stats in a second.
I know you've done a lot of it, and you've done a lot of broadcasting. You're a real pillar in this area, I have to say. Salute what you've done.
Thank you. Type 1 is the grooming of underage white girls, or any girl generally is type 1 as a category, the grooming of underage girls by gangs of men. Now, in type 1, where the grooming gangs are involved, it was found in our research that we found, I'm going to put this up on the screen for you, that 84% of those involved in type 1, which is gang grooming of underage girls, were, what it says there, South Asian. To be specific, they were Pakistani and Bangladeshi Muslims, right? Type 2, which is, I hate to use the phrase, ordinary paedophilia, what we normally understand by the word paedophilia, is representative of wider society. So one statistic found it was about 87% in type 2, which was paedophiles, 87% were white. Another found 100% were white. But of course, that's not surprising because the vast majority of the country is white. What's interesting is the disproportionate figure of 84% hailing from my background. Why that's interesting is because roughly only 2% of the country are Pakistani and Bangladeshi Muslim men who are responsible for 84% of collective grooming of underage white girls.
Mentally deficient / retarded / dripping with autism, just spewing out of everywhere. God knows where this autism's coming out of. From God knows where. So fucking spraying out of your ears. It's embarrassing to...
To summarise, Owen will always choose who he wants to be the victims. Even when the real victim is somebody that he disagrees with, he'll make other people the victim. Anyway, I'm out of here and I'm going to just let Owen show you the way out.
I've had enough of this. Let me go home. Sorry.
Owen,
no
genuinely,
way.
we're trying to have a civilised conversation.
I
know you're upset. You're upset,
I am.
and you're
I'm very upset.
I'm quite right. Everyone's upset and angry about this, but storming off a TV set.
You don't fucking like me!